Hi, it's Nell, and today I'm going to DIY a terrarium, but not just one terrarium, four of them, so stick around for that. And as usual, there will be a lot more details in the blog post. You'll find links, steps, more photos, all that kind of good stuff, so be sure and check that out. It's right at the top of the description box down below, and also on our website, JoyUsGarden.com. So what is a terrarium? They became popular in the 1800s as a way to grow ferns. So I'm going to read one of the many definitions of a terrarium. Some say open, some say closed, some say both, but what it basically is a sealed transparent globe or similar container in which plants are grown. So it's basically a self-sustaining garden, and I'm interested in doing one here in Tucson because I live in a very dry climate, so it'll be fun to see how ivies and ferns and that kind of thing do in the terrarium here. And I am not doing this DIY by myself. Brielle, who works here at Joy's Garden, is going to join me for this. You might have seen her at the answering the 10 questions about snake plants, and she has never made a terrarium before. I've made quite a few of them. I grew up in the country on a farm and would collect princess pine and moss and things out of the woods that I think are on the endangered list now. And I'd also take cuttings out of my dad's greenhouse. But I have not made a terrarium since I was 15. So this is going to be a fun one. Okay, Brielle, come on. Here's Brielle.
Yay!
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about container choice. This is Brielle's container here, and it is open on the top. And this one is can be open too. This one is open here, and this one is closed. So we're doing a variety of them. They come in different shapes, sizes, colors. This one is copper, which I really like. These are black, so you can find a lot of different containers. And actually, speaking of the containers, there's going to be an affiliate post out in like a few days, and it's going to have 12 to 15 terrarium choices on it for you. But of course, in this blog post, we will list these containers here where you can buy them online. Well, we had to move because that's the thing about Tucson, is there's so much sun that it was starting to come around. So we got the funky background, but maybe you can see the mountains in the background, who knows. So plant choice. Because it is a enclosed or semi-enclosed environment, plants that like humidity, I think, do the best and they look the best. You see succulents growing in terrariums and they look good, but they really don't need it, so I'm not doing any succulents. We're not doing any succulents. I'm used to doing I'm so used to doing these DIYs by myself. We're doing these ones that like a little bit more humidity, and I will put the plant choices, these, in the blog for you so that I don't go on and on about that. By the way, I got these containers on Amazon and Target. I'm not sure where Brielle got hers. You remember?
My grandma bought it for me.
Oh, Grandma. And these came from Etsy, and these I got from Lowe's because I just wanted something a little bigger, and it's right down the street. So that's where those all came from. So now we're going to go into materials. And there are some basic materials to use. The thing with a terrarium is you can really be creative and make whatever kind of a scene you want. You can use multiple plants. You can just use one plant, a few plants. There's adornments you can use, but there are some good basic ingredients to it. We have charcoal on the bottom of the containers here. I use that. It is optional, but charcoal, like charcoal for toothpaste or deodorant, it kind of sweetens things. It also adds in the drainage. So if any water were to build up in the bottom of your terrarium, it isn't going to stink as bad as it would. And then a soil. Soil is important. I use organic potting soil, and then I add some more cocoa coir to it. Cocoa coir is a substitute for peat moss, and it likes that nice peaty rich mix. But cocoa coir also adds to the drainage. Also, and then I put a few cocoa chips in there too, which are kind of like orchid chips. So it's a nice rich mix, but it's gonna drain really well. And then you need some sort of pebble or rock. The color is up to you. Let's see, I should have had that. This is some of my ground cover rock. This would be fine here. We're gonna show you these all close up too. And then we have some lighter rock too, so that goes on top of here. And if you want to skip the charcoal, you can just do the pebble, and that is just fine. And then you might want some moss if you want to top dress it with some moss. I like to do a layer of moss in between the rock and the soil, just because it helps to prevent a lot of the soil from going down in. That's optional too. And then you need some kind of tools. There are actually Terrarium Kit Tools. I don't have one, but we're gonna have that in the affiliate post for you. But you'll need something like this to arrange the plants. Pasta tongs work fine. Brielle's is small, so she can use a chopstick in hers. This is an antenna. It came off an antenna in the car. It would be fine. A mini trowel, a spoon. Any of these are going to help you out, because you obviously can't get a trowel in, although this one is much easier to work in, so, but still, these are going to be good friends. I also use these when I plant small cacti. And if you want to jazz your terrarium up a little bit, you can put some sort of rock. This is pyrite. You can put little figures, whatever you want, twigs in it, just to give it a little more character. So now we're going on to the steps. So the first thing I do is I clean the inside of the containers. I don't clean the outside until after it's done, because you're gonna have your hands all over them. But it's hard to get in there with the plants after it's planted and get it clean. So I cleaned yours too anyway.
Thank you.
And I watered the plants yesterday, because most of them are 2-inch plants, and they dry out really fast. So those are all watered. And I wetted the soil mix too, because you want that to be moist going in, because if you've ever worked with a dry soil mix, you know how long it takes it to absorb the water, and you don't want to end up with a bunch of water in the bottom here. So that's wet, that's on the ground over there. So that is really what I do beforehand, before I actually start in on the action of this thing. So we are going to lay out the plants. The other thing that I like to do too, because these are a little harder to work in than a pot, is to lay out the plants so I know what's going into where, so I don't have to play around with it and say, oh no, yeah, this move. So that's what we are going to do now, and we're actually probably gonna fight over what plants go in whose terrarium. But
I want this one.
Okay, she'll get that one. Okay, we'll be right back.
Okay, so I'm putting clay pebbles over the charcoal. Right,
and these clay pebbles work fine too. I use these when I plant big floor plants, or repot big floor plants, because they add lots of good drainage in there too, and they're very light. I do more. Yeah, just a little bit more. You want to do about 1 inch or 2 layer of the pebbles. I'm doing a black lava rock because I like the look of this one being black. My kitchen, I'm going to have this in my kitchen or my office, and I have black accents. So what am I doing? I can just pour it here. Air Force Base going by. And this one has this reddish color pebbles that that is actually the ground cover in my front yard. And you can kind of even them out, smooth it out anyway. I'm using the antenna or the broken antenna. I think I'm going to get a bit more lava rock in here. The black lava rock. Okay, there we go. And now it is soil time. Got that? Okay. I am using a 1/2 cup measure. This is what I use for my compost. Anything that gets the soil in there. I'm going to put a layer of moss over this rock. Here, I'm just going to plant this, you know, directly on as Brielle is doing too.
How much do you think I need?
I can't see it. You know, it's
so
pretty
dark. Thin.
Yeah, you need more than
okay.
that. Yeah. So on this one, I'm putting a layer of moss over the rock to act as a barrier. So that's an option too. So just a thin layer. These are some odds and ends of some pieces of moss I had left over, so it works just fine. And there's all different kinds of moss. This preserved moss comes in different colors if you want a different color. There's Spanish moss. There's the reindeer moss. There's just all kinds. You know, this is just called sheet moss. So whatever you want, this is where you get to be creative and choose your colors. I've seen reindeer moss in purple and blue and chartreuse and everything. So I'm just going for a little more of a natural look here.
I put some moss in here. I really liked that look. This one's Okay.
Yeah, that's it on the soil. Otherwise, it's going to be too high. But these are low plants, so that's fine. The thing is, with these terrariums, some plants might outgrow other plants. So if you can get plants approximately all the same size and that, you know, grow the same rate, that's good too. Otherwise, you're going to have to redo it. It is hard to redo a terrarium once it's done, but not impossible. Okay, now it's on to the fun part, the planting. And I have this that I'm just going to make an indent in the soil here. Brielle has a small trowel. And I have taken the croton out of the pot. And fortunately, a lot of the soil fell off of it. It's, you know, I took some off the top there. So I'm just going to get this in here. And I make a terrarium. I don't like to wear gloves. It's hard. It's hard to work with gloves. I always garden with gloves, but with this, I don't. So, and then I'm just gonna fill back over it, and then I can add some rock or something onto it. And because this plant is a little bit bigger, it's gonna be kind of half in, half out. But that's kind of cute. That's kind of a fun look too. So now I'm just gonna get it down in a little bit because I want it to go down a bit. And if your plant is too tall or something, you can always clip the top off of it too. But that's just a way to get it in, and then you get the soil over. That's why, as I said, it's easier to get most of the soil in first because it's hard to work around. So, all right. So now you.
Oh my gosh, this is so cute. I don't think
this is so cute. She's like, I don't want to plant it. It's so cute. I just want to look at it.
I don't think I've ever like held a plant this little.
I know. Well, these 2-inch plants are basically found online because I buy most of my plants at garden centers here, independent. I just happen to run to Lowe's to get this, but these are very hard to keep alive in a garden center because you've got to water them so much. So that's why you find them online. You can find them on Etsy, Amazon, eBay. There are some growers that sell direct too. So you can just Google plants for terrariums. So our smaller ones are done, and now we're on to the bigger ones. And Brielle has the one that's a little trickier to work in. So we'll see how she does. You might want the pot. You might want the tongs. It's up to you. I'm getting the plants out of the pot just so you can see. A lot of, as I said, the soil comes off on them, and that is just fine, baby, because you don't need that. And I love ferns, so I'm really anxious to try a fern here in the desert enclosed, because ferns are tricky to grow as houseplants. So we'll see how it does. All right, so that's it. And then you just go through and you make your little holes, and then you cover back up. I like to pat the soil down on the top after the planting, so it's not all mounded up. It's easier to get any top dressing on, whether it be rock or moss. It's easier that way. I just thinned the ivy out a bit because I had it in there and I thought, oh my God, it looks so big. So that's the thing, is ivy is going to grow a bit faster, but it came as part of the assortment. So, and I like to take off any dead leaves first because it's easier to get them off than after it's planted. But you can see how big the root balls are. They're really, really small. So that makes it easy to work with. So I have these plants all positioned in where I want them to be. Brielle is taking some videos and some pictures for Pinterest over there. So I am hogging the table at the moment and just getting the soil around, getting the plants in a little bit, and then straightening them out. And that is it. This is a really fun project to do with kids. I first made one when I was like 7 or 8, I think. So if you have kids, or if you are a kid at heart like we are, it's a great project. Now it comes to the point where we're going to top dress. And I could just leave this, and Brielle could leave it with just dirt exposed, but we are going to top dress ours. I'm going to use some dyed preserved moss, and she's going to use some pebble on that. So again, whatever you want to use, if you just like the more natural look and just want to do dirt, that's fine. I'm going to put a piece of pyrite in here. So I just like this because there's only one plant in here. I want to get some top dressing in here. And I don't do a huge layer of moss. You can if you want to. I just don't like the globby moss look. So that's just a preference, but you can do whatever suits your fancy on this. Just gives it a little bit more character. And then I kind of tamp it down a little bit, because I'm not gonna soak the heck out of this because the plants and the soil are already wet. You maintain the open ones a little bit differently than you do the closed ones. I think that is pyrite, aka fool's gold. So those two are done, and now on to these. This one I'm just gonna do moss in parts of it, just a little bit in the corners here and there to get that woodsy effect. Boy, the planes are flying, the helicopters and planes are flying over today. So what I've done on mine is, well, you'll see these all really close up soon, but I did a little bit of moss and then a little bit of this green rock here too, for a little bit of shine and pizzazz in there. And Brielle has done the clay pebble grow medium and some moss in hers, so you can really play around and have fun with it. So we're gonna clean up, show you, and as you're looking at them close up, I'm gonna tell you how to care for them. So I'm also gonna have some things that are good to know in the blog, some points. I'm not gonna go through them here because this has been long enough, but in a closed terrarium, it's practically self-sustaining, so you shouldn't have to water it for maybe, I would say maybe 6 to 8 months, if that. They don't need much at all, and I will water this one. This is how I water. I just water a little bit along the edges here, just to go through, but it's going to hold all the moisture in, and that's why you want the soil and the plants wet. So that's all I'm going to put in, and you can see if the soil is drying out or not, or you might just want to pop a little bit in there and half a year or so, but that's all that one needs. These two will need it a bit more because they are open, but they will stay a little bit more on the wet side. So this one I'm going to wet a little bit more just on the moss. And then you can just play it by ear how it's drying out too. The same with Brielle's here. I'm going to give it just a little watering around the edges. A little bit on the moss because it is open to help it stay nice and moist in there. And you might get condensation building up on these on the inside. On the closed ones you probably will. This one has a pin. And anyway, it has this pin that you can hold it up with. But if I was going to, if condensation would build up, I would probably tie like a towel or a sponge on here. I'd try to take it off a little bit and then leave the top open for a bit just to get a little air in, and then close it back up. And it is very important that you keep these out of direct sun. You don't want them in direct sun at all. Bright light is fine, but no direct sun. So if I've forgotten to say anything about the care, I will put it in the blog post for you, but that's about all you do. And I use this to water my bromeliads and things, and it's a great little tool. Or my succulents that grow in pots that don't have drain holes. Oops, I should have more water, but that should be fine for it because it was pretty moist. So that is it on the care. Just no direct sun, please. Remember I said I cleaned the inside of the containers first, and now going to clean the outside. You know, this is a super cloth. It's great. You don't need any glass cleaner or anything for it because you've probably gotten paw prints all over it. So it just kind of gets it clean because you want to make sure you see every little angle of your plants. All right, so we're all done, huh?
Awesome. That was so fun.
Good, good. Well, you had an absolute beginner doing our terrarium, and me who used to do a lot, but haven't done any for a while. I actually used to do them in glass jars and fish bowls and things because I grew way up out in the country and didn't have all this. We didn't have the internet to find all these things. So anyway, there are more details in the blog post, materials, all that good stuff. There's a post coming up very soon with just the containers in it, more choices for you. So I hope you have enjoyed this and found it to be helpful. As you can see, it is not hard to make a terrarium. It's a very casual affair. We had a good time, and we hope you did too. Now, let's get into our indoor gardens and make our worlds a more beautiful place. Be sure to come back for more gardening videos. We thank you for stopping by and for all your likes and your subscribes. Bye.